Okay, great. Alevtina, the stage is yours. Thank you so much for joining.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Foresight, and all mentors, as well as my collaborator, Creon.
Alevtina, I can see the presentation like not in the mode where you're presenting, but in the mode where you can still write on it.
Okay.
Just in case.
And now it should be good, right?
Perfect.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks a lot, Alison. Yes, so thanks a lot to the mentors and to the Foresight, as well as to Creon. And right now we are going to talk about systemic agri. So basically shape your future farm. And this is the Foresight app, which we have developed over the last 4 weeks. And this app is aimed to visualize and assess systemic solutions for ecological regeneration and agricultural landscapes. And why actually it is important? Because healthy soils are the key to feeding and growing population, as well as it provides many ecosystem services and functions that regulate various processes like flood control, pollinations, emissions, and so on, as well as the importance of soils as a factor of human health and soil-borne diseases is often overlooked, and as well as the importance actually the demand of consumers and the connection to the food producers, basically to the farmers and suppliers, is also a little bit broken up. So this is why we also would like to empower the farmers in order to be at the first role in communication. And how we are going to do so, we are going to focus on return on investment, valuation of ecosystem services, and update farmers on the driving forces that they can stay connected and adjust their strategies. And we believe that regenerative agriculture will be the key in solving the soil-related issues, basically minimizing the soil threats such as soil erosion or decrease in soil organic matter. And what is also important, that our app will help to create the user-friendly visual guideline for the farmers, that they can just put in all their parameters and have a really understanding what would be the best to do and how to make it. So basically we provide this detailed and visual guidance. And now I will already actually jump to the project goals, and in between also to the progress what we have achieved, because it's linked together. And our aim is to provide affordable development strategies to small farmers using the visualization and scenarios, as well as impact assessment. So we are going to have a few test cases such as in US, Germany, and India. And here you can see our prototype, so our mock-up of the app. So then the farmer has registered, they will need to bring the general farm details. So basically like farm size, farm type, then they will be also either able to share the location or enter their location. And then if they have already done some soil analysis, they will be able to upload. If not, then we will be using the data from existing soil and climate databases. And then, of course, we will also ask them what actually kind of solution they're looking for or what kind of issues they're having. And then, yeah, if they also would like to share, then we will have option more to share. And as soon as the farmer has registered and they actually opening the app, they will be updated with the latest news. So, and this latest, apologies. And this latest news will be focusing on the trends and driving forces, so such as consumer and dietary and policy-driven changes. So that means that the farmers, as well as the technologists, that the farmers will be able easily adjust their strategies, and actually the most important point, at the lowest possible costs. So they will be able to go through the app and finding the topic that they are interested in currently, as well as we would like to link it to the social media, create some podcasts and YouTube channel. And probably you're asking, so actually, how is it going to be shaped? What kind of boundaries will be brought in? So the following scenario boundaries, such as soil and climate data sets, so basically the climatic environmental conditions, as well as we will be focusing on the regional policies, then also the consumer demands, because as we mentioned before, we still would like to link the producers and consumers, as well as the new trade regulations or maybe new players in the market. We also would like to update and brought into these scenario building processes, as well as we'll be focusing on the good farming practices, so such as the regenerative soil solutions. Perhaps we could also use the so-called living labs, so top farm cases and some technologies, as well as the new ways of impact assessment and evaluation of ecosystem services. So basically, this is our boundaries, this is our framework. And then how are we going to, actually, what kind of inputs are we going to ask from the farmers, right? So it will be two main blocks, farm status and soil management status, where it means farm status is actually what kind of yield expectations they have, what kind of investments they expect to contribute in the development, and what kind of market access they also already having. And sorry, it's all about the current status. It's not expectations, it's already average. The expectations will come as the outputs. And in the soil management status, we will be focusing on what kind of soil practices have been done. So for instance, tillage, crop rotations, or organic inputs, or other different chemical inputs. So, and afterwards, we are going to put those inputs through the algorithms, which will be based on the data development, stochastic frontier analysis, life cycle assessment, cost benefit, and network analysis. And then here, we show that, yeah, the different calculations will be conducted, all the environmental and economic as well as social aspects will be taken into account, and where we focus on the soil quality as well as on the environmental quality, where of course also the air, water, and soil qualities are included, and then on the overall agricultural sustainability, where the socio-economical aspects are taken into account. Basically, what kind of outcomes we will provide? It will be the yield. So basically, the farmers have entered all the inputs, right? What they currently have, and then we will be providing to them the current state, so which is staying farm today, and then we will be creating two different scenarios. So for instance, like future farm scenarios. So it can be future farm scenario 1 and 2. And here in these outcomes, we will be showing what kind of yield they might expect. So using these certain soil management practices, which we would recommend based on the inputs, based on the regional aspects and developments. Then what kind of, for instance, new market opportunities they might have, also the return on investment, and what actually makes their farm regenerative. So they will be able to compare, and the evaluation of ecosystem services will be occurring, as well as the return on investment, and the huge focus will be also giving to the global soil legislation, so that, for instance, if we're comparing like farm today and farm 2-5 years, so this is also another aspect that we will be asking them what kind of time frame expectation is coming up, and here would be the monetary valuation of those changes. And as well as based on those work, we also think that the communication platform can be created in order to exchange experience, finding solutions, just sharing and experiencing. So to conclude, why our mission matters, because it will be empowering farmers both economically and socially. And the rhizosphere and biosphere will be regenerated and restored, and it helps creating better futures. And our next steps will be just going forward with the idea validation with the German farmers, building a support network, finding co-founders, mentors, raise funding, keep calm, and develop the idea and launch the project. Thank you so much once again to Foresight and the mentors.
Thank you so much, Alevtina. Awesome. This was great. Okay, thank you. Amazing. Who has questions from the mentors?
What I want to better understand is, I see what you're saying about the different partnerships that can be attained through this platform and through this education. I kind of think of you guys as like McKinsey across Coursera a little bit. But what I'm wondering is, how will this create impact at scale? How do you see this creating impact at scale?
I'd like to answer that, if I may.
Okay, Creon, go ahead.
So I think that there's kind of two answers to that question, or two possible polarities that bound the answer space to that question. And at the sort of the optimistic polarity is, well, this is a software thing, whether it's an app or a website, or something that's even more accessible to a broader audience without smartphones, is one thing. But the idea is that those kinds of solutions can scale using Moore's law and the cloud and device penetration and all these things that allow every other software-based solution to scale these days. So on the one hand, it'll reach a lot of people and a lot of audiences because it's essentially bits mostly. And then the pessimistic answer is that, yeah, but actually one of the main tenets of regenerative agriculture is that there's no one size fits all solution. It's all super localized based on the local ecology and the local economy and the local culture and the particular landholding and all the sorts of initial conditions and boundary conditions that really determine whether something's going to work or not in an individual instance. So it's all kind of got to be super customizable or specializable without a lot of work. It's got to be easy to put in a bunch of parameters that sort of bound the space of potential solutions into this subspace that's of actual possible utility for the person on the ground where they are. So all I wanted to say is that there's kind of this tension between scalability on the one hand and the need for sort of hyper customization on the other hand. And that's something that's sort of where the meat of the project is.
Thank you. There is a second question in the chat. I don't know, Tom, if you want to ask it, or perhaps Creon, Alevtina, you want to read it out and just answer it via video. Given that managing soil well is an embodied skill more than informational gap, how will people ramp up on the embodied practice with primarily informational tools?
I would like to ask for Tom perhaps to elaborate on that question, because I think I get the emotional content of it, but I'm not sure. I think it'd be most useful for us to have you elaborate rather than to have us try and deflect it in some way by claiming we solved it.
When people manage soil directly, then there's a lot of practice and instinct that they build and intuition that they build from all the little ways that it's failing. And eventually, after a couple of years, they get real comfortable managing the soil. But until then, it's very foreign. And that's what I mean. It's more of an embodied skill. Like, people kind of know a bunch of the informational things, no-till, cover crop, a bunch of things. The practice of it is way harder than the information.
Is what you're saying that old thing that I love to repeat, that the difference between theory and practice is actually much bigger in theory, is actually much bigger but the difference between theory and practice is much smaller in theory than it is in practice.
Sure.
And yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of, I think, the big risk here. The big risk is is there something that a system like this could do that is actually helpful to people? Because it's not going to be there with them digging in the dirt, you know? It can't be that thing. Now, there's this intermediate class of solutions that we need to address, but can't right now because of the level of effort, which is that in many places there are and will be more and more specialists who have experience and can help people on the ground, and help them, like actual bodies on the ground, boots on the ground, if you will, who can start to translate information to embodied action. And this obviously has to complement that and not just distract from it. So I agree, but I mean, I guess we'll see, because like people can't just do all this by trial and error and not learning anything from anybody else. So somehow there's got to be a way that information transfer is part of the solution to this puzzle.
Thank you.
But I also think that this communication platform on the side still, although yes, of course, the information gap is not solving everything, at the same, it creates some kind of virtual supports groups for those farmers, and then they can exchange their pain and their gains, and then it will also really boost their interactions, and then they could, for instance, like even create or post some voice recording or video recordings that showing, oh, here, this is how I actually planted my seeds or created something else. And I think it will definitely boost also this network of living labs. So basically, a few of the farms could be really examples in the regions. Their different farmers could always come over, or also civil society could come over anytime and learn from those best practices farms. And then I think as soon as they learn that this is actually working this way, they will definitely join the direction too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have to cut it out here, and we're a little over time already. Thank you so much for your presentation.